It hits you in the smallest moments. A smile that's a little too sharp. A compliment that feels like it comes with a price. A conversation where the tone doesn't match the words. You walk away telling yourself it was nothing, but your gut whispers, pay attention. You've been here before. Early interactions, the beginning of something new. A friendship, a potential partner, a coworker who seems unusually warm, unusually interested, unusually perfect. And for a moment, you want to believe it. You want to think you finally met someone genuine, someone who sees you, someone who gets you. But deep down, something feels off. You replay the conversation in your mind, the way they asked too many personal questions too quickly, the way they studied your reactions as if your emotions were data, the way they mirrored your personality like they were wearing your skin. You're trying to understand why a harmless conversation made you feel exposed, why their friendliness felt like an inspection, why you walked away with a weight you couldn't explain. You tell yourself, I'm being dramatic. They're just confident. They're just friendly. But the uneasiness lingers. And here's the part most people miss. The biggest red flags never look like red flags at first. They look like charm. They look like attention. They look like chemistry. But what you felt, that internal tightening, that wasn't anxiety, it was recognition. Some part of you has seen this before, and it remembers how the story ends. Let me explain why. Early interactions are psychological battlegrounds. It's where people show you who they want you to think they are, not who they actually are. This isn't random. It's psychology. People who lack emotional maturity, who crave control, who operate from insecurity or manipulation, they reveal themselves in subtle, almost invisible ways, but only if you know what to look for. The truth is this: red flags are rarely loud in the beginning. They're quiet, elegant, polished. They slip through the cracks because most people are focused on the presentation, not the patterns. You're charmed by their confidence, flattered by their attention, disarmed by their humor. Meanwhile, your subconscious is scanning them like a radar, noticing inconsistencies, detecting micro-expressions, evaluating tone shifts, picking up on emotional incongruence. Your intuition sees the shadow before your eyes see the shape. Because early on, people reveal more than they think, in how they talk about others, in how they handle tiny frustrations, in where their eyes go when they lie. These are the red flags you overlook until you can't anymore. Picture this: you meet someone, maybe a potential partner. They're charismatic, smooth. They compliment you with surgical precision, hitting every insecurity you thought you'd hidden. You're different. I've never opened up this fast to anyone. You just get me. It feels intoxicating. But pay attention. A few hours later, they're sharing traumatic stories with you. Too heavy, too soon. They talk about their ex with a viciousness that makes you wonder who they'll blame when things go wrong with you. They say they hate drama, yet every story they share is drenched in chaos. They brag about cutting people off, but the way they say it feels like a threat. Still, you ignore it because they're so attentive, so invested, so interested. But here's the truth. Interest isn't always admiration. Sometimes it's evaluation. Days pass. You notice how they interrupt you when you talk, but expect full silence when they speak. You notice how their compliments shift depending on what they want from you. You notice how they listen not to understand you, but to calculate you. And suddenly it clicks. This wasn't connection, it was profiling. This wasn't vulnerability, it was manipulation wrapped in intimacy. This wasn't chemistry, it was strategy. That's not love, that's control. And you realize the red flags were there from the first minute. You just didn't want to see them. Pay attention to the most overlooked red flags. Excessive charm. Real confidence is calm. Manipulative people often come in too warm, too engaging, too complimentary. Charm is the mask, not the person. Rushing emotional intimacy. If someone tries to fast-forward closeness, it's not passion. It's a tactic. People who haven't earned your trust shouldn't be asking for your soul. Inconsistent emotional tone. Their words say one thing, their energy says another. That mismatch is your warning. The truth is in the tone, not the sentence. Subtle tests. They drop small provocations to see how much you tolerate a slightly disrespectful joke, a boundary push, a delayed reply to gauge your reaction. These are experiments. You are the subject, how they treat people who can't help them. A person's character is revealed in the moments that offer them nothing. Micro-jealousy hidden as concern. Why'd he look at you like that? Why do you follow people like that? It sounds protective. It's not. It's the opening act of possessiveness. Oversharing trauma. It makes you feel trusted. But trauma dumping is often a shortcut to unearned intimacy. Real vulnerability is paced, not performed. Identity mirroring. When someone copies your values, interests, or opinions too perfectly, they're not aligning with you. They're baiting you. These red flags slip under your radar because they don't look dangerous. They look flattering. That's the trap. Here's the truth. You don't get manipulated because you're weak. You get manipulated because you're empathetic, because you see the good first, because you want to believe people mean well, because you think sincerity comes naturally to everyone the way it does to you. But you need to understand something. The earliest moments with someone are the purest version of who they truly are. Not the mask, the patterns. That first conversation is the blueprint. People don't reveal their darkest truths later. They reveal them immediately, just subtly, through tone, through behavior, through inconsistencies. Your body catches what your mind ignores. If you want to avoid pain, avoid confusion, avoid the emotional wreckage that comes from trusting the wrong people, you have to train yourself to listen to that first signal. The discomfort, the hesitation, the emotional static. That's your intuition saying, I've seen this danger before. And when you start trusting that voice, your entire life changes. You stop clinging to potential. You start observing reality. You stop falling for masks. You start recognizing intentions. You become harder to deceive, harder to manipulate, harder to control. That's when you become dangerous, not to others, but to the people who once preyed on your kindness. So remember this. Every early interaction is a preview of the entire relationship. The patterns don't come later. The consequences do. If something feels too perfect, question it. If something feels off, trust it. If something feels rushed, slow it down. Your intuition is the oldest, sharpest survival tool you have. It doesn't lie, people do. Words do. Masks do. Pay attention to the small moments, because the smallest red flags are the ones that save you from the biggest heartbreaks. You don't need proof. You don't need certainty. You don't need permission. All you need is to listen to what you already feel, because the most overlooked red flags are the ones you notice immediately and ignore intentionally. Don't ignore them anymore.